You know that person who stays calm when everything's going wrong? The Wi-Fi crashes, plans fall apart, someone's panicking, and they just exhale and say, all right, no meltdown, no post about it, just quiet control. It looks boring, outdated, maybe even emotionally shut down. But here's the tension most people miss. That calm isn't personality, it's conditioning. And the same psychology that makes Gen X look unshakable is also the reason they quietly carry more than they should and ask for less than they need. This isn't nostalgia, it's a pressure pattern. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Picture a small familiar crisis. The internet drops. Phones come out, someone's already Googling, another person's complaining. Meanwhile, the Gen X person walks over, unplugs the router, counts silently, plugs it back in, and waits. No commentary, no drama. It works. They shrug and pour more coffee. This is the patient rebooter. They grew up in a world where waiting wasn't a bug, it was the system. Dial-up tones, recording songs off the radio, film you couldn't see for days. Their nervous system learned something early. Urgency doesn't equal importance. So when something breaks, their instinct isn't panic, it's process, step by step, calmly. But here's the quiet edge of that strength. When you can tolerate almost anything, you sometimes tolerate things you shouldn't. Bad jobs, slow erosion, relationships that drain more than they give. Patience turns into endurance. Endurance turns into invisibility. Then there's the person who says, I'll handle it, and actually does. Bills, schedules, emergencies, emotional cleanup no one else wants to touch. They don't announce the effort. They don't complain. They just fix. Meet the DIY fixer. For many Gen Xers, independence wasn't a motivational slogan, it was a necessity. Latchkey afternoons, figuring things out alone. The brain adapts fast to that reality. Problems become tasks. Emotions become private logistics.
Dependence starts to feel unsafe.
And when being capable becomes your identity, resting starts to feel like failure. Needing help feels like weakness. So the DIY fixer keeps going, organizing, solving, absorbing stress, until one day they're exhausted and can't quite explain why. They're strong, yes, but unexamined strength turns into quiet burnout. Now think about the quiet skeptic. You've seen them in meetings. Everyone's excited, big ideas, bold claims. The quiet skeptic doesn't interrupt. They don't hype. They wait. And when they finally speak, it's one sentence. How are we measuring that? The room gets quieter. This isn't negativity, it's pattern recognition. Gen X came of age watching institutions wobble. Promises broke, systems failed slowly, then all at once. So trust became calibrated, not given. They read the fine print. Test before committing. Believe experience over slogans. Socially, this can be awkward. They're often mistaken for disengaged or difficult, when in reality, they're waiting for something real to be said. In a world built on speed and certainty, skepticism feels out of step, even when it's accurate. Then there's the analog archivist, someone carefully holding on to photos, tapes, notes, objects with weight. They know exactly where everything is. This isn't clutter, it's continuity. For Gen X, memory lived in physical form. Music you held, photos you touched. In a world that keeps changing rules, tangible things become anchors. Proof that the past happened, that it mattered. Letting go of those objects can feel less like decluttering and more like erasing evidence of who they were and how much they carried to get here. Here's where the profiles overlap and where the real psychology shows up. Gen X isn't just adaptable, they're the bridge between analog and digital, between older expectations and newer norms, between institutions that raise them and systems that replace them. And here's the twist that actually matters. Being adaptable isn't empowering when you're the only one doing the adapting. It's exhausting. They translate constantly. They absorb pressure quietly. They make things work without fanfare, and because they don't complain, no one notices the cost. You see this most clearly in relationships and work. Gen X often shows care through action, not performance. Fixing things, showing up, handling logistics. Their loyalty is practical. At work, they value autonomy over applause, clarity over buzzwords. But here's the uncomfortable truth. When you make competence look effortless, people stop noticing the effort. Being the reliable one becomes a trap. They don't burn out loudly. They disappear a little at a time, emotionally, creatively, quietly. This is the shadow side. Patience turns into resignation. Skepticism hardens into distrust. Strength becomes silence. And silence convinces everyone, including themselves, that they don't need support. But awareness changes things. Not by abandoning these traits, they're powerful, but by choosing when to use them. Asking for help before exhaustion forces it. Questioning whether endurance is still serving you. Letting someone else carry the load, even if it feels uncomfortable. So pause for a second. Which of these felt familiar? The calm under pressure, the fixer instinct, the quiet skepticism, the attachment to what lasts. And more importantly, what have you been carrying simply because you always have? Gen X isn't emotional. They're restrained. And sometimes restraint becomes the loneliest skill of all. If this landed for you or made you think of someone you love, let me know which part hit hardest. And if you want more psychology like this, grounded in real behavior instead of labels, you know where the subscribe button is. And hey, if something breaks today, try unplugging it first. Some lessons really do last.